Nairobi. Now we move to our interview segment, which we had discussed earlier, and of course the perspective being that from the year 2020, during the COVID crisis, there was a big impact on the transportation and logistics of all exports, and mostly affected from Kenya were the fresh vegetables, fruits, and horticultural products into the EU and other places like the UK. Now, what are the challenges these have been facing, and what role can innovation play in improving this current status? Well, with us in studio to discuss just that, two very interesting guests. One, Purity Naisho, the commercial director at Interveg Exports. She is the person walking the talk and, of course, has been wearing that shoe so knows where it's pinching. Interveg, of course, is a member of the Fresh Produce Exporters Association of Kenya. And Basil Malaki, he is knowledge sharing manager at Innovate UK, right?
Knowledge transfer manager.
Knowledge transfer manager, rather. And of course, the organization Innovate UK being the United Kingdom's innovation agency. And of course, they're working in this region for a while. Let's get into it. And we want to start from the perspective of the challenges that have been affecting the industry. Purity, talk to us about the way the COVID crisis transformed this industry and the challenges that have remained since then.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Of course, since the time of COVID, that particular period, the horticulture industry was greatly affected. And you would understand because we do exports to Europe,
yes.
Basically out of the region. And so for us to do that, we needed the airplanes and the sea ships. Unfortunately, of course, there was a lockdown, and so this transportation came to a halt. And when it came to a halt, of course, then there was a halt in terms of transporting or exporting the products from Kenya to the destinations of Europe and the UK. Now, as time went by, of course, there was some slight openings in terms of how can we be able to continue with the business, because then it was coming to crunching almost to a ground. And I remember the KQ also came up because through the associations that we belonged to, there was a lot of conversation going on. And I remember FP was one of the lead associations that actually had a conversation with KQ. And if you remember, there was even an aircraft that was a passenger aircraft that was turned into a cargo aircraft. And that's how part of the shipment started going. However, as they started opening in the air for planes to land in Kenya, it was very expensive. And the reason being that the aircrafts that are coming were saying it's a high risk to fly to Kenya, the pilots to fly to Kenya and carry cargo from Kenya. And that, of course, was
sorry about that.
that was cause brought about an increase in the freight rate to be able to compensate the high risk that they were saying is very high. And for that matter, the rates were as high as almost $4 per kilo. That's something that had never been seen in this region to export produce out of this country.
And the perspective then is that even with that increase and the subsequent, so to say, normalization of matters, this price is yet to really come down.
I think the players in the industry got used to those rates, and as a result, it's taken time for this to come down, and they're still not at the rate that we would want it to be competitive as Kenyan exporters, because you find it is still within the ranges of about $2 to almost $2.5, and for flowers which are more expensive to fly, they go up to even $4, especially during the very high season rates, that is Valentine and Mother's Day. And so the rates are still extremely high out of this particular region, and that's still a very big challenge for exporters, because then it has reduced the demand on the other side, because of the fact that then our produce are getting to be expensive on the other side of the market. Yes.
So and then for producers like you and exporters, that means that your margin is being squeezed ever further and further, and that's where innovation comes in. Basil, I want to bring you into the conversation and talk to us about the Open Innovation Challenge and how this was then supposed to play a role in finding solutions that would make business much more viable for players like Purity.
Thank you very much, Peter. So Open Innovation plays a role in this sense, yeah. The model is set in a way that we have to identify a challenge owner, and we also have to identify a solution provider.
Yes.
So, the role of, Innovate UK and the Global Alliance Africa, which is an Innovate UK project,
yes,
is to help businesses like Intervid focus on what they do best, not to look for solutions, as we're coming to help them look for sector technical challenges. And then, we coin this with them, and we have technical experts in the UK whose work is to help, coin all these challenges into something that we can put out there as a global challenge. In the past, we've done this 17 times in Africa, in both South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria, where we've been able to successfully get local and global solution providers. In this case, for Intervid, we have Kenyan solution providers, which is a very good thing and one of the unique things that has happened, where we happen to get a local business with a pressing need, and someone local who can provide the solution. So our role is essentially that, to connect businesses, to connect innovators, to be able to bring some innovative solutions to life.
Why is it important to find a local solution in terms of sustainability? Why is that key to finding a lasting solution?
There's so many advantages to it. One, it makes it easier for them to pilot, because there's a period where the local solution provider and the solution provider in general and the challenge owner have to pilot the solution. What we do is we also provide funding, about 25,000 euros.
Yes.
When they're in country, it's easier for them. They're within reach. They can pilot. There's that feedback loop that is easy and stuff. But it also creates jobs and business opportunities, which is something that we are big on. Yeah. So yeah.
So then, talk to me about the fact that across the industry, it's not just one person Intervid facing this challenge.
Absolutely.
So does that then also mean that if this works, you can then create a much more broad-based solution provision framework, and thus probably business for this company that has come up with this?
Absolutely. Like I said, we've done this 17 times. Yeah?
Yes.
In Kenya, we've worked with Intervid through FPIC. We've run a challenge with KQ, the Kenya Airways, looking at navigation solutions for passengers that are disabled and those who are anxious. We've been able to find solutions. Fortunately, these ones came from the UK, 2 solutions from the UK.
Yes.
We've been able to do this with Flamingo Farms, where we worked with some of the outgrowers to find solutions for false codling moth, because this is very dangerous for exporters. She can talk more about that.
Yes.
So we've been able to find solutions for that. If this model is proven to work as it seems, of course our call is to see that more businesses can come to us, to be able to tap into the opportunity of them identifying sector technical challenges, bring them to us, let us help you find the solutions. It creates business for you, it helps you focus on your core business, but also helps create business for solution providers as well.
So Purity, then when you're looking at the challenges that you have been facing, and then of course they're trying to come up with possible solutions, why did you end up with trying to figure out the export value chain and the fact that you're trying to make these goods last longer, that sort of thing? Or what sort of possible solutions were you looking at to come up with something that will leave you with a bigger margin?
Yeah, as I said, freight, I think, is one of the biggest challenges that we have from this region. When you try to look at other regions, like for instance Morocco, they track their products to the EU, and they're doing the same product that we are doing. So then we are kind of being pushed out of the market because of our cost being high, and so our prices being high because of freight. So freight, there are many challenges in this industry, but I think freight has been one of the biggest challenge. And so we, through FPIC, we of course got to meet with the UK Innovate, and one of the challenges we brought about is that, about freight. So how do we go about this issue, go around about the issue of freight? And we realized that by sea is a little more cheaper, not a little more, actually it's much cheaper, because it's less than $1 from here to Europe. Of course, the distance is also not short from this part of the world. It's about 23 days now. It's about 50 because of the sea, the Red Sea situation.
Yes.
So it's still a challenge, but of course, you always have to keep looking for a way of getting out of a challenge, and that is what we were looking at first. That how do we first of all deal with the freight factor? So if we can reduce freight, then the rest of the things can be easy to be taken care of, and that's why we decided to become part of this particular program. And as Basila said, we are members of FPIC, so once it works through us, then it's going to be shared by FPIC to every member who is interested. And so to do that, then you need to look for a way of how do you extend the life of this particular product that you're shipping. Remember that you're dealing with fresh produce.
Yes.
And that is vegetables for that matter. Some trials have been done, and maybe about 1% of that is being shipped right now by sea, and that is a product called snow peas and sugar snaps. But we wanted to get into the bigger volume of vegetables that goes out of this country, and that is the French beans. So if we can get that challenge out of the way, then we'll be able to be competitive, and that's what we are looking for. But how do you extend that shelf life, and what kind of packaging can we use to be able to use for that product to arrive on the other side as though it has gone by air, as in fresh, to the table of the consumer? And that is the challenge that we gave UK Innovate to use the people that have won that particular challenge to try and come up with that particular solution, and hopefully we'll be able to succeed. Yes.
What about the market? Because a lot of people think organic, think fresh, think distance from the farm to fork. And when you talk about application of either things that might cause residues, things that might change the nutrition aspects, or even the taste and that sort of thing, maybe then the market would be a bit jittery.
Yeah, the market, there have been quite a number of challenges, and one of those that you've mentioned is actually what we apply on our products before we export, and even what we eat here, what we apply, and to what extent can we be able to measure so that then it doesn't affect the consumer at the end of the day. And so there is a lot of training that has been going on in the industry, and there is a lot of capacity building for people to be aware of what to spray on the product and how long should it take before you actually harvest it. And so there will always be conventional products in the market. Of course, organic products are kind of like high value products, and if you can master that, then it's good for us. But conventional products will always be in the market. The thing is, how do you ensure that that conventional product going out there doesn't have any substances that may affect the consumer? Not only in Europe, also in Kenya. And I'm glad to report here that even our authorities are also working on ensuring that what you eat on your table as fresh vegetables does not have those substances. And so there's a standard that was brought out, and it's called KS 1758. And an organization, an association like FPIC is kind of right now also training farmers so that as you produce the export product, then you're also producing that sukuma wiki that is going to go to your table, that is fresh and that is safe, that is not going to affect the consumer. So yeah, there is that conversation between conventional and organic, but conventional will always be there.
Interesting conversation right there. We want to go to a short commercial break, but on the other side of that, we want to talk about the innovation aspect and the entire value chain that gets them from identifying the problem to eventually finding a solution, how that is trialed out, and of course ensuring that it does get to that to market. But that of course is after the break, so stay with us. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with our guests.